There's something you should know about democracy.
I am dying to know what a proud resident of Qom, Iran is going to teach me about democracy. I cannot wait.
Watch out!
Biscuit, huh? Okay.
Western democracy is coming!
Yeah, I guess Iran would have something to worry about there, given its habit of arming the Taliban, arranging assassination attempts on ambassadors to the United States, and sending 100,000 militia into Iraq to help oppose U.S. forces there. Yes, I guess Iran should be worried about Western democracy on any given day.
For a nation to truly develop, it needs a strong leader.
Ruhollah Khomeini, better known as Ayatollah Khomeini, became the supreme leader in Iran after the Iranian Revolution of 1979 and held that position until his death in 1989. His tomb is now practically a holy shrine, and it is legally punishable to speak ill of him in Iran. During his tenure, Khomeini issued the fatwa that demanded the death of Salman Rushdie for his book The Satanic Verses, and Khomeini also oversaw the execution of thousands of political prisoners and dissidents over the years, numbering anywhere from 4,000 to 30,000, depending on who you ask. The true believers in Iran certainly considered Khomeini a strong leader.
Now, how do you choose that leader? Well, according to Western liberal democracy, you get given some candidates, and the whole country gets together to vote for whoever they think will lead the country best.
Yes, that is a high-level summary of how democracy operates, but I suppose you have a devastating rejoinder?
Sounds great, but it's not. You see, these candidates don't get voted for according to their knowledge or their expertise or their stand for truth and justice. They don't? No! They're voted for according to who's the most charismatic.
Charisma does have something to do with it, sure. But if you're going to make a statement like that, you would have to know the heart and mind of every voter regarding every local, state, and federal election. Speaking for myself, anecdotally but still disproving your claim, I couldn't care less about charisma next to having a grasp of what the candidate stands for, plans on doing, and how both compare to the record of their actions in the past. I understand from your side of the world the West looks like one big reality show, but I don't think you're giving the electorate enough credit.
Knowledge, morality, and skill sets has got nothing to do with it.
Nice goose-stepping there. Have you been practicing?
That's why every 4 years you get a new likely candidate for the position of presidency or prime minister presenting himself to you as though he's the nicest guy in the world. He promises things like free education, and we go, yay. Lower taxes, and we go, yay. No more war, and we go, yay.
This is Hassan Rouhani, who was elected president of Iran in 2013. At that time, he promised to sort out the nuclear problems between Iran and the United States in 3 months. It took him more than 2 years. As well, although he was seen as part of the establishment, Mr. Rouhani's promises to relieve sanctions, improve civil rights, and restore the dignity of the nation drew large crowds on the campaign trail. Mr. Rouhani also promised to mend Iran's fences with the Arab world. So, an Iranian politician making a bunch of promises that he is either slow to or cannot fulfill. You want to tell me again about how your politics somehow are superior?
But he or she is only saying that so you'll vote for them. And the moment you do, he's bombing another country, your taxes are even higher, you can forget about your rights, and education is even more expensive and puts us into even more debt than you were ever in before.
Quality of Life Index 2016. The United States ranks 12th, the UK ranks 14th, Iran ranks 47th. So tell me again why Western democracy is worse than Iran's theocratic republic?
But don't worry, every 4 years the politicians get better! Better at deceiving the public, better at making you think that you have a choice when it comes to the real policies of the country, and better at getting you to vote for them.
Tension runs high in Iran after President Ahmadinejad's landslide victory. Fresh protests flared up on Sunday as supporters of his defeated rivals took to the streets. They complained of vote rigging.
They lied. They changed the numbers, which people know. We were vigilant, but they made fools of us. For what? To select someone else. If you want to select someone, select them, but don't take us for fools.
The American is a novel by Howard Fast, highly recommended by Ayatollah Khamenei himself, who highlights that reading this book one can realize what elections really are.
The novel The American is a kind of fairy tale about a character who works his way through the political system based on his faith in true Western democracy, of the Abraham Lincoln ideals. How is plugging that book a repudiation of Western democracy?
For an individual who wants to live in a logic-based society, such criteria makes absolutely no sense. It begins with local elections, and then goes on to gubernatorial elections, House elections, Senate elections, and presidential elections. Those who play no role in the elections are the people, you!
There was chaos and bloodshed in the streets of Iran's capital as protesters defied Friday's orders from Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and marched into clashes with waiting security forces. They marked another blow to Iran's clerical leadership, which has sought to intimidate protesters with harsh warnings and demonstrations of force. Full details of the street battles could not be obtained because of government restrictions on the media, but an estimated 3,000 people marched, some chanting death to dictatorship.
The sad thing is, people living in liberal democratic nations still believe they actually have a choice.
Donald Trump was elected against all popular expectations, and the resulting voting numbers and public sentiment show that there was indeed a choice to be made this time around. Try as they might, the media and common wisdom was proven wrong by the will of the people. That's democracy.
What's that I hear you say? You do have a choice? You can make a change while working within the governmental system? Well, then why don't you run for president or prime minister?
Many people do. Many people do not. We have choices in what we can do in a Western democracy. But tell me about running for president in Iran, because unlike Western democracies, every woman who has tried to run has been denied by your Guardian Council, an unelected body of 6 experts in Islamic law who get to decide who is and is not suitable to run for office. So tell me again about how Western democracy is faulty.
Here's 5 biscuit tips for you while you attempt to become the prime minister or president of your country. Number 1, be rich. Filthy rich.
I cannot disagree with you there. It is the unfortunate fact that, in our current political system, money is what talks. Though several candidates in this past election cycle had net worths below $1 million, they would still be considered far above the average citizen in wealth.
Number 2, be arrogant, making sure that you put other potential candidates down even though they might genuinely be better for the position than you.
Yes, I'm sure between the riot police beating political opponents, orders from the supreme leader not to protest, and government restrictions on the media, there is no suppression of opposition parties going on in Iran whatsoever.
Number 3, make sure you have the backing of your Zionist friends. You ain't going anywhere without them.
I'll just leave that one there to stand on its own merits.
Number 4, be good looking, have an attractive spouse, and smile at the camera. Number 5, if you don't have the solution to a problem, or you yourself are the problem, lie.
Yes, it's true. Politics is a game of half-truths and bullshit. But you know as well as I do, that isn't unique to democracy. I mean, Iran is ultimately informed by a set of fairy tales in a Bronze Age book. And everything in there is absolutely true, right?
Follow these 5 tips and you will be voted for. Ta-da! The people will now follow your whims and desires regardless of whether you're representing any spiritual or moral value. Hey, if you keep them happy, they'll keep you happy.
Representing any spiritual or moral value. Well, yes, Western democracy classically separates the church from the state, and for good reason, as I'm sure you would vehemently disagree. But that's okay. It's a free country. In the West, anyway.
Now, in and of itself, is democracy really a bad thing? Democracy is simply a system of government in which the citizens elect representatives from among themselves to form a governing body, such as a parliament.
Yes, that is the basic definition. So, why is it a bad thing?
Hey, that sounds great. Whatever the majority of people want, they'll get. But there's a big flaw in this way of thinking.
Finally, we're getting to your argument. Okay, hit me.
Imagine a family where the children outnumber the parents, where everyone in the house gets to vote on the house rules. Sounds good? No, it will just screw everything up. There's just no balance. There'll be ice cream before dinner time, nobody waking up for school on time, everybody will gang up on the smallest kid from time to time, and there'll be video games and TV all the time. That's just not the way it works.
You're right. That's not the way it works, because toddlers and preteens cannot vote. Is this analogy going somewhere?
There has to be some moral compass that guides the people other than their own desires.
A moral compass. I see. So the people cannot be trusted to make decisions based on their own discretion and desires for themselves or their country. Those need to be guided by some external doctrine. I wonder what it is you're alluding to.
Otherwise, whatever the majority of people want, they'll get. You see, it's exactly that kind of thinking which justified the slavery of millions of black Africans for 250 years.
And then we had a war over it. Over 600,000 Americans died fighting over it. And in the end, slavery was ended in a Western democracy. It was ended even earlier in England, also a Western democracy. So tell us about slavery in Iran. No? Okay, how about the fact that slavery wasn't officially abolished in Iran until 1928 by Reza Shah Pahlavi? A relative to the theocracy Iran is today, secular leader. 1928. Not very recent, but a hell of a lot later on than the Western democracies.
The masses wanted it, so they got it. Millions of people, millions, died of starvation in Bengal because Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of England, casually diverted food supplies away from the starving victims to his own European soldiers. And when somebody asked him, hey, what's with that? He simply said, famine or no famine, Indians will breed like rabbits. But the people still voted for him. Twice.
I don't have the time to give all the reasons for the Bengali famine, which began years before Churchill's decision even came about. And even with Britain's aid, a dozen other factors would have continued the famine, including the efforts of other nearby provinces to restrict food exports. Churchill was a prejudiced jerk, for sure, but attributing all those deaths to him is a bald-faced deception.
And let's not forget this guy, yet another democratically elected leader. The masses wanted it, so they got it.
Really? You're all derisive against the Zionist friends of politicians, and you land on Hitler as a way of criticizing the democratic process? That is an amazing choice. You do know that Hitler lost the presidential election in 1932, right? That he was appointed chancellor by Hindenburg due to political pressure from the Nazi Party. Hitler wasn't elected. But you know, there was a recent and quote-unquote elected leader of Iran who was advocating for Israel to be wiped off the map. So I think you inserted Hitler into the wrong comparison.
Charismatic as these people were, these candidates lacked morality. Yet masses of people surrendered their wills to these candidates by voting for them. Now it's gotten to... I can't be bothered. I wouldn't vote for either of them.
Well, we agree on that one as well. I didn't vote for either of them, nor anyone else this time around.
Don't feel sorry for yourself. If there's a problem in society, it's your responsibility to try and change it, not somebody else's. George Orwell, the writer who raised awareness about social injustice, once said, "A people that elect corrupt politicians, imposters, thieves, and traitors are not victims, but accomplices." In other words, there's only one solution. One solution indeed.
So revolution is your prescription for the West in comparison to democracy, huh? Funny how when Iran's people have tried to tear down the establishment in the recent past, an establishment born out of a revolution, they kept being stopped by the old revolution. Define hypocrisy. Thanks for watching.